Imagine two of history's most feared warrior cultures going head to head. 100 Aztec warriors versus 100 Mongol cavalry. We're talking about real fighting systems that actually conquered empires. So who would win? Let's break it down. Okay, first things first. We need to make this fair. The Aztecs and Mongols lived in completely different times and places. They never actually fought each other. So we're picking both sides at their absolute peak. For the Aztecs, that's the late 1400s and early 1500s, right before the Spanish showed up and ruined everything. For the Mongols, we're talking about the 1200s, the era of Genghis Khan. Both civilizations at their most dangerous. We're not using elite bodyguards or ceremonial units here. These are regular soldiers, the kind you'd actually see on a battlefield. The Aztec side has experienced warriors with some guys from their famous Eagle and Jaguar warrior groups mixed in. The Mongol side is a standard cavalry unit, mostly horse archers with a few guys who can handle close combat. Everyone gets their real historical weapons and armor. No upgrades, no fantasy nonsense. The Mongols show up on horses with their composite bows, lances, swords, and an armor made of small overlapping plates or thick padded cloth. The Aztecs are on foot with this wild mix of weapons: spear throwers, regular bows, slings, spears, and their famous wooden sword clubs with obsidian glass edges. They're wearing thick quilted cotton armor and carrying shields. We'll start by looking at a neutral battlefield. A big open field, reasonably dry, no buildings, no jungle, just a fair fight in daylight. Then we'll see what happens when we mess with the conditions. Fighting in a city, pouring rain in a jungle, taking away the Mongol horses, all that changes everything. To figure out who wins, we're looking at 5 things: what weapons and armor they have, who controls movement on the battlefield, how well trained and organized they are, what their battle tactics look like, and how all of this works when these two totally different fighting styles slam into each other. Let's talk about what the Aztecs bring to a fight. Their ranged weapons are actually pretty impressive. They use regular bows, slings for hurling stones, and this thing called an atlatl. You've never heard of an atlatl. It's basically a stick that gives you extra leverage to throw spears way harder and farther than you could with just your arm. There's actually a real Aztec atlatl sitting in the British Museum right now. It's decorated with art, but studies show it's a legit weapon, not just for show. Modern tests with replicas prove these things can launch heavy darts with serious force. A trained warrior with an atlatl can punch through armor from a good distance. For up-close and personal combat, the Aztecs have the macuahuitl. Imagine a wooden baseball bat, but instead of being round, it's flat like a cricket paddle. Now embed razor-sharp pieces of volcanic glass along both edges. That volcanic glass, called obsidian, is actually sharper than a steel blade when it's fresh. The catch is it's brittle and can chip or break if you hit something really hard. But against skin, muscle, leather, or bone, absolutely devastating. Spanish conquistadors wrote about seeing these weapons in action. Some claim they saw a Macuahuitl cut a horse's head clean off in one swing. Modern historians think that specific claim is probably exaggerated, but everyone agrees this weapon caused horrific injuries. Those obsidian edges could slice through muscle and shred limbs with brutal efficiency. Here's something most people get wrong about Aztec armor. They wore thick quilted cotton vests called macuahuitl, and you might think cotton sounds weak, but this stuff actually worked really well. You want proof? When Spanish soldiers arrived in Mexico wearing their heavy metal armor from Europe, they had a problem. The metal was way too hot in the Mexican climate. So you know what they did? They ditched their own armor and started wearing the Aztec cotton armor instead. They gave it a Spanish name, Escopil. If your enemy starts copying your gear, that's when you know it's good. This cotton armor could stop arrows and other projectiles way better than you'd expect. Aztec warriors also carried shields made from wood or wicker frames covered in leather, sometimes decorated with bright feathers. European museums still have some of these shields today. They were light enough to move fast, but strong enough to block incoming hits. Training was serious business in Aztec culture. Boys got enrolled in military schools young. Commoners went to schools called Tolpochcali. Nobles went to fancier ones called Calmecac. They learned fighting from childhood. Here's something unique about how Aztecs fought. Capturing enemies alive was a huge deal. Warriors got status and honor from taking prisoners for religious sacrifice back home. Now, Aztecs would absolutely kill you on the battlefield, but if they could drag you back alive for their gods, that was even better. This affected how they fought because it gave them extra motivation to get up close and personal. The whole culture pushed warriors to close the distance and grab you. On an actual battlefield, Aztecs would typically start by launching everything they had at range. Sling stones, arrows, and those atlatl darts would fly to soften up the enemy. Then came the rush, where they'd charge in with shields up and those nasty Macuahuitl sword clubs ready to wreck you. The goal was to break apart your formation so they could get into one-on-one fights where they could disable and capture you, or just kill you if that wasn't working out. Now let's look at the Mongols. Their main weapon is the composite bow, and this thing is an engineering masterpiece. It's made from a wood core with animal horn glued to one side and sinew glued to the other. The whole thing gets wrapped in birch bark to protect it from weather. This design makes it incredibly powerful and compact, perfect for shooting from a galloping horse. Historical records and modern recreations both confirm these bows are optimized for mounted warfare. Mongols could shoot accurately while riding at full speed, and their entire way of fighting was built around this. For close combat, Mongols carried lances for charging, swords for slashing, and sometimes lassos to yank enemies off horses or out of formation. Their armor was either small plates laced together like fish scales or thick padded coats. The whole point was finding a balance between protection and mobility. The Mongol warrior needed to move freely enough to draw his bow and shoot while on a horse, so the armor couldn't be too heavy or restrict movement. Museum pieces from the 1200s and 1300s show this clearly. The real Mongol advantage is the horses themselves. Each Mongol warrior typically had multiple horses. They'd switch between fresh mounts to stay fast and avoid wearing out any one animal. Even in a smaller fight like 100 versus 100, this matters a ton. Being able to speed up, pull back, fake a retreat, and attack from a different angle, all that depends on having horses that aren't exhausted. Mongol military organization was insanely efficient. They used groups of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 warriors. Everyone knew their position and role. They used flags and horn signals to communicate across the battlefield. While an enemy was still trying to figure out what was happening, Mongol units could coordinate complex moves because they practiced them over and over. Historians point out this was just really good training. Smart logistics managing all those horses, and formations everyone understood. The Mongol way of fighting was all about three things: mobility, firepower, and faking people out. They ride into range, shoot waves of arrows, and manipulate how the enemy moved. One of their most famous tricks was the fake retreat. Mongol cavalry would attack you, then suddenly turn around and run away like they're beaten. Your natural instinct is to chase them down and finish them off, right? But as you're chasing and getting tired and spread out, the Mongol cavalry suddenly wheels around and attacks your now disorganized formation with arrows and charges. This trick worked all across Asia and Europe against tons of different enemies. They used it so much that when they finally got defeated at a battle called Ain Jalut in 1260, part of the reason was their enemy had studied Mongol tactics and turned the fake retreat back on them. So how do the weapons actually match up? Let's start with the ranged fight. Mongol bows versus Aztec spear throwers, bows, and slings. Medieval horse bows could shoot pretty far, but effective, accurate shooting is way less than the maximum distance. The key thing is mounted archers can shoot continuously while moving around. They can ride in, shoot, move to the side, or back off, all while putting arrows in the air. The atlatl launches fewer projectiles, but each one hits really hard. Aztec bows and slings add more volume. Against infantry with shields and cotton armor, a lot of arrows and projectiles will get blocked. But not all of them. The advantage goes to cavalry archers who can keep moving against foot soldiers who aren't close enough to grab them yet. That cotton armor definitely helps the Aztecs. We know Spanish soldiers started wearing it specifically because it worked against arrows and was way cooler in the heat. But Mongol bows, shot from horseback over and over in waves, will still cause casualties. Arms, legs, faces, any spot not covered, these are vulnerable. Aztec shields protect the front, but horse archers can ride around and shoot from the sides or back where there's less protection. You can shoot the horses. A disciplined line of infantry putting out heavy missile fire can bring down mounts. Mongol tactics try to avoid sitting still where they're easy targets. They attack from angles, keep their distance, and never park in one spot where darts and stones can nail them. If horses start going down, the Mongols just back up out of range and try a different approach. Their whole fighting style is designed to keep the cavalry advantage while slowly chipping away at enemies. Those fake retreats are perfect because they make infantry chase and get tired and spread out, which exposes them to more arrows. In an open field, Mongol horse archery creates more constant range pressure than Aztec foot soldiers can match. The Aztec weapons are dangerous for sure, but the Mongol method is more dangerous because it's mobile and built into a smart tactical system. What about close combat? If Aztec warriors close the distance with their shields up and cotton armor on, the Macuahuitl is brutal. It's excellent at disabling people with deep cuts, especially against arms, legs, or lighter armor. Those obsidian edges cut deep into flesh. but obsidian chips when you keep hitting hard stuff. Weapons built for slashing, not stabbing in tight-packed fighting. Mongols actively avoid getting stuck in that kind of grinding close-quarters brawl. When they do get close, they use the speed of a charging horse with a lance or sword strike, then immediately pull back instead of staying to slug it out. If Mongols end up fighting on foot, they're still dangerous warriors, but they lose their huge advantage. Quick note about materials. Obsidian is volcanic glass. Crazy sharp but brittle. Works great against skin, bone, or wood. Against metal armor or hardened stuff, it chips and breaks. Against Mongol armor, like those small overlapping plates, leather, and felt, it'll still cut, but repeated hits wear down the edges. Aztecs dealt with this by aiming to disable enemies instead of trying to chop through armor, and by swapping out broken blade pieces when they could. Composite bows rely on animal glue and animal sinew for their power. Traditional bow makers protected the sinew with birch bark, leather, or lacquer coating. In really humid environments with constant rain, poorly maintained bows can have problems. Glue weakens, strings get loose, sinew swells. But well-protected bows work fine in different climates. They were used successfully everywhere from Korea to Hungary. This matters when we look at jungle scenarios later. On a normal dry field, bow performance isn't a problem. The basic difference in this matchup is cavalry versus infantry on foot. Cavalry doesn't just move faster, it controls the entire battle. Horsemen pick when and where to attack. They can back off after making a mistake. They can refuse to fight on bad ground. They can threaten your sides and back, forcing infantry to constantly adjust. Mongol units train specifically to coordinate using flags and horns. They practice complex tricks, like having one group sweep across to grab your attention while the other group looks for an opening. The fake retreat thing is documented in multiple real historical battles. Battles from the 1200s show fake retreats as standard Mongol practice. Sometimes enemies who fought the Mongols learn the trick and use it themselves later. It's really hard for soldiers on foot, no matter how brave, to not chase an enemy that looks like they're running away. It's really hard to keep your formation tight while chasing. That's exactly when the horse archers turn around and shred your stretched out tired line with arrows. Aztec armies were disciplined. They used signals, drums, and banners too, but the specific practice of mounted deception and quick regrouping is the Mongol specialty. On an open field, they almost always control when and where the main fight happens. So let's play out how a standard open field fight probably goes. 100 Aztec warriors line up on foot, shields forward, cotton armor on, ranged weapons ready in front. Sword clubs and spears in back. 100 Mongols arrive on horses, splitting into at least two groups with some guys in reserve. The ground is solid and dry, no cover anywhere. The Mongols open up by shooting arrows from angles, staying just outside the range where those Aztec spear throwers are most accurate. This forces the Aztecs to either move forward to get their weapons in range or stand there and take hits. The Aztecs fire back with slings, arrows, and some atlatl darts. A few horses or riders might get hit. Cotton armor and shields block a lot of incoming arrows. The Aztec line holds. Now the Mongols start messing with them. One wing does a shallow fake retreat on one side, the other wing increases pressure. If some Aztec groups chase the retreating wing, their formation starts to stretch out. The groups that don't chase are now getting hit from the side. If the Aztecs don't take the bait, the Mongols just keep doing little feints, wearing them down and looking for any weak spot. The Aztecs know their best shot is getting close. They launch a big charge when the Mongols seem to back off too far. The Mongols give up ground on purpose, shooting as they go. When the Aztec charge peaks and everyone's breathing hard from sprinting, that's when the Mongols turn their horses around and pour arrows into the now bunched up warriors. A few Mongol riders might charge in with lances to hit and run, but they never get stuck in a standing fight where Aztecs want them. After a few rounds of this, the Aztec line is taking damage. Arms and legs getting hit. A few men go down. Everyone's getting tired from charging over and over. With only 100 guys per side, even small losses matter. One or two breaks create bigger problems. Someone gets flanked and has to turn to face arrows from the side. A leader goes down and his section loses coordination. A group chasing too far gets isolated and wiped out. Eventually, either the Aztecs catch some Mongol cavalry in bad terrain and wreck them, or the Mongol mobility keeps grinding them down until the formation breaks. Most likely outcome on an open field, Mongols win more often than not. Their system is specifically designed to avoid what the Aztecs need, which is close combat, while forcing the Aztecs into repeated exposure to mounted archery and tactical traps. Mongol tactics did this to tons of different infantry armies all across Asia and Europe. Aztec weapons are absolutely dangerous at very close range. The Mongol plan is to never let them get that close. But this totally depends on the open field, dry weather, and working horses. Change any of that and everything shifts. Scenario 1. Fighting in a city on a narrow raised road or broken up terrain. In the Valley of Mexico where the Aztecs lived, battles sometimes happened on narrow causeways with water on both sides, or in areas cut up by canals and ditches, or in packed city streets. Cavalry sucks where it can't spread out or where the ground is sketchy. If this fight happens on a narrow causeway with water and mud on both sides, horses can't circle around. They become easy targets for those spear throwers and ambushes. If one or two horses freak out or fall, the rest get jammed up. Then the Aztecs close in, exactly what they want. Cotton armor, shields, and those sword clubs are perfect for this. In this scenario, advantage Aztecs. The Mongol strength gets shut down completely, and Aztec close combat skills become usable. History backs this up. Horse archer armies usually tried to avoid towns and swampy ground for exactly this reason. Their worst losses came when they got forced to fight in tight spaces. Scenario 2. Thick jungle with constant heavy rain. In soaking wet tropical conditions, there's debate about how well traditional composite bows hold up. Animal glue and sinew don't love moisture, which is why bow makers covered them with birch bark, leather, and lacquer. Composite bows definitely worked in rainy places when properly maintained, but relentless wet can still cause issues. Strings loosen, sinew swells, glue gets weak. Meanwhile, horses struggle bad in muddy ground full of roots and steamy heat. The Mongols actually tried fighting in Southeast Asia and had mixed results. Climate and terrain definitely didn't help them. In a downpour under jungle canopy, the atlatl and sling look way more attractive. They're simple, tough, powerful, and don't rely on glue or sinew that hates water. You're fighting at closer distances anyway because you can't see as far. In this scenario, way closer to even, leaning Aztec. If cavalry can't move right and bows are compromised even a little while atlatls work fine, Aztecs can actually close the distance. Historians say good protective wrapping kept bows working in rain, so humidity doesn't instantly kill the bow, but extreme wet definitely makes things harder and shrinks the Mongol advantage. Scenario 3. Both sides on foot, no horses. Maybe we're in a space where you can't bring horses, or we just remove them for some reason. Take away horses and you can remove the main Mongol advantage, being able to move wherever they want. Now it's archers on foot with composite bows versus foot soldiers with slings, bows, and spear throwers who want to close in with shields and sword clubs. This becomes about who's better disciplined under fire and who's better at hand-to-hand fighting. Mongol warriors weren't useless on foot, but their whole system was built around riding. Aztec tactics are all about closing distance and fighting up close to kill or capture you. In this scenario, slight edge to Aztecs. Once fighting gets to close range, their shield rush into melee is exactly what they trained for their whole lives. Without horses, Mongols have long-range shooting but lose the ability to back off and attack from new angles. Those brutal sword clubs and arrow-resistant cotton armor matter way more. Scenario 4. Open field but rainy with slippery ground. Even on plains, if the ground is muddy and slick, horses lose grip and speed. Shooting still works, but the ability to speed up quickly, do crisp fakes, and circle around while keeping formation gets way harder. Aztecs still have to cross through a zone of arrows, but everything slows down. Mongols are still favored here, but the gap shrinks as soon as cavalry can't change direction cleanly or keep tight formation at speed. Let's clear up some common wrong ideas. First, Aztecs only tried to capture people so they wouldn't kill. Wrong. What made Aztec warfare different was the high status you got from taking live prisoners. Historical accounts make it clear Aztec wars had plenty of killing. When they could manage it, taking someone alive got you honor and benefits. This pushed warriors to get close, which matters in our fight. Second, composite bows fall apart if it gets humid. Overblown. Traditional composite bows don't love moisture, which is why they got protected with bark wrapping, rawhide, leather, and lacquer. People made these bows work from Korea to Hungary in all kinds of weather. Continuous tropical rain with poor maintenance can definitely hurt performance, but well-maintained bows keep working when it rains. Third, the Macuahuitl is just a crude club. Nope. It's a purpose-built weapon that causes vicious cuts. Spanish sources and modern analysis agree it had serious cutting power, keeping in mind that obsidian edges chip on metal or stone. Up close against lightly armored people, it's terrifying. Fourth, horse archers are just harassers who can't finish fights. Mongol tactics could and did win battles decisively. The finish comes after the enemy formation breaks apart. That's exactly what fake retreats and surrounding tactics are designed to create. Once your formation falls apart, Mongol cavalry charges in to finish the job. Let's score this category by category for the basic scenario: an open, dry field. Ranged fighting and controlling distance, Mongols. Horse archery plus tactics to keep pressure while avoiding bad situation gives them the edge. Close combat once you're face to face, Aztecs. Shields plus cotton armor plus those sword clubs are nasty at point blank range. Trick is getting there. Protection, mixed. Aztec cotton armor and shields work well against lots of projectiles. Mongol scale armor and padded coats work well against cuts. Both have weak spots. Obsidian chips on hard hits, scale armor has gaps. Movement and control. Mongols by a mile when they're mounted with room to ride. Organization and command. Mongols because of standardized units and signals that let them do complex tricks as normal practice. Tactics for this specific matchup, Mongols. Their whole fighting style is designed to beat infantry that wants to close in by never letting them close. Overall, on an open, dry field, Mongols favored. They probably win most of these fights through wearing you down at range, positional tricks, and quick charges, unless they screw up and let Aztecs trap them somewhere. Nobody can give exact win percentages for medieval fights, but we can talk trends. Open, dry, neutral field, Mongols win most of the time, maybe 7 or 8 out of 10. The times Aztecs win are when they successfully catch and destroy a Mongol group, or when Mongols make a mistake that leads to a standing brawl. Dense city, causeways, or broken wetlands, Aztecs now probably win more than half. Cavalry shut down and fighting becomes what Aztecs are built for. Really humid jungle with constant rain and soft ground, closer to 50-50. Aztecs gain because bow maintenance gets tough, horses struggle in mud, and those spear throwers keep working fine. Not automatic Aztec win because protected bows still work. The Mongol edge definitely shrinks. Both on foot with no horses, slight Aztec edge since the huge Mongol advantage disappears and close combat becomes likely. Why do these calls follow from real history? Fake retreats and horse archery are documented repeatedly in Mongol wars against really capable enemies. Russian princes, Persian armies, Chinese forces, European coalitions, all with different gear and tactics. The Mongol system works because people under stress act predictably. You either chase enemies who look like they're running or you hesitate. Either choice can be punished by horse archers who control the fight. That Kalka River battle in 1223 is the textbook example of a fake retreat destroying an army that chased. Ain Jalut in 1260 is the example of it being turned around by an enemy who expected it. The point is Mongol tactics force infantry to make bad choices, then punish whatever they pick. For the Aztecs, that capture honor thing explains why well-armed warriors keep closing even when staying back might work better. Logistics and politics mattered too, but capture as honor is a major theme in historical research and Aztec documents. That motivation lines up perfectly with what they need tactically here. Aztecs have to close to win. They're really dangerous if they manage it. Materials and climate matter around the edges. Spanish soldiers wearing copied Aztec cotton armor tells us these vests could handle arrows well. Composite bows being moisture sensitive but protected tell us they work in rain with care. These edge factors can flip small fights. If you force me to pick a winner under basic conditions, open dry field with everyone using normal gear, 100 Mongols win most of the time. They control when fighting happens, chip away at range, and set traps with fake retreats and flanking, all while avoiding close range where Aztec weapons are deadliest. This is exactly the kind of fight their system crushed for centuries. Disciplined horse archers beating aggressive infantry that has to close to win. But switch to causeways, city terrain, swampy ground, or remove horses, or have constant tropical rain that wrecks footing and makes bow care harder, and Aztec close combat skills and protective armor become the deciding factor. In those situations, Aztecs win more than half. The answer comes down to which system fits the battlefield. The Mongol machine is built to wreck infantry that needs to grab them. The Aztec machine is built to seriously mess you up once they grab you. On an open plain with room to ride, Mongols usually create the fight they want. In tight, water-crossed, or city terrain, or if horses aren't in play, Aztecs can force the fight they want. The most honest answer based on history is Mongols win more in a neutral open field. Aztecs win where horses can't move or aren't there.